Awesome. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for taking time out of your busy day to be here. Miranda, which library are you from? That would be curious to me because yours is a name I don't recognize immediately. I welcome you all here again. Thanks for taking time out of your busy day. If you're watching this on archive and you have any questions about this or the previous discussion, please feel free to email me or any of the other CKLS consultants and get your questions answered. I was on the horn with Ellen Wood today because Sherry Holmes has a board meeting coming up, and I was answering some questions for her because she wants to be able to explain the system plan very clearly and succinctly to her board so that their voting representative can vote the best interest of the library. I'm going to be talking about two documents today. They're kind of tied together. The first will be the draft of the proposed 2020 plan, and the second will be courier costs. And if you've been following along on Google Group, some of the librarians who watched the first webinar have already initiated a conversation about the courier costs, and I will get you up to speed on that quickly.
And Gail,
yes.
Miranda is from Glen Elder.
Oh, Miranda, hello. Thank you for joining us. That's awesome sauce. Let's see. Oh, there you are. Awesome. Welcome to CKLS, Miranda. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Let me get this up here first, and then that. Let me get to the right window and share. And that's what I want you to see. And share one more time. And yes,
okay, there we go. Now you can see it.
I talk myself through it, so I make sure to get all the steps. It's like when my kids were little and they were learning how to carry glasses with things in it. Every step they would take would be careful, gentle, walk themselves through it. Okay, this is the deal. For those of you who are new to the system, Miranda, every year CKLS prepares and approves a strategic plan. And that process starts in January, or actually the previous year before, and it goes before the full system board, which is comprised of a voting representative from every public library and one from every school district. And the full system board votes to approve or not the strategic plan. The strategic plan lays out very clearly what each library needs to do in the next year, what they need to do to earn money to be paid out in the third year. Mary Beth, how do you describe that?
So we have, the 3-year cycle. It is the first year is the planning year. The second year is the year of the plan. That's the year that you do what's in the plan. So the plan is named after that year. So the 2019 system plan is what you do in 2019. And then 2020 is where you report on what you did in 2019 and where you get paid for what you did in 2019.
And I always say it's a lot easier to explain if I'm moving salt and pepper shakers and forks and spoons around. But it's important that you understand that cycle and you know what you're going to be working on now. The first part of the system plan is a little bit about the system. I believe that the mission and the vision statements will probably change because after we get this rolling, after we finish this webinar and get these out to you and to your trustees, we are going to, oh, I see a boo-boo right there. We are going to start working on the strategic planning and visioning process, and with that, the vision and mission statement can change. This history of CKLS is a little bit important, and it's important to note right here that the where the population comes from, and I'll refer to that again later. Before I get too much further, I just want to say if you have any questions, ask and we'll stop. I'll be able to get back on track, and this is your system plan. It's very important that you understand it. If you don't agree with it, speak up. It's important. This is a part of the democratic process as an informed voting body. So systems were established by statute a large number of years ago, and they were established to provide adequate library service where it exists and to offer library service where there is none, and that is what CKLS is here for. The strategic plan helps us steer our way through 2020 and on the way to the future. We will always evaluate and review services and costs to make sure that we are being the very best stewards we can be with that tax money with which we are entrusted. And I think entrusted is the right word there. The counties are named in statute. You will note that we have 16 tax-paying counties and 1 contracting county. Pawnee is a contracting county. The money to run CKLS comes from a mill levy, a tax that is placed on those properties, so rural within those 16 counties, that they do not pay for a local library service. That money comes to us. As the system, we decide how much money we need, and we let the counties know, and they set the mill and do a bunch of other things, and then the money comes back to us. That's a great deal of responsibility, and we want to make sure that we use that responsibility wisely. Pawnee County is a contracting county. That means they pay for the services because their rural tax money stays within the county. As a contracting county, they are eligible for only those services for which they pay. That contract is reviewed on a regular basis. So CKLS provides consulting, continuing education, and grant opportunities, competitive grant opportunities to school libraries in districts with the district administrative office in the CKLS region, to 5 affiliate libraries, and those are our academics, and 1 special library, which is the Ellsworth Prison Library. We also have outlets, which are not legally established libraries, but they are run by volunteers, and they are eligible for things like rotating books, and they can attend continuing education events, but they have no CE grant money to get them there. That is entirely volunteered run. So here in this paragraph, it talks about how the full system board is comprised. The full system board, it's important to understand that CKLS has 2 boards. We have the full system board, which is 1 voting representative from every member public library and 1 vote from each school district, as well as 1 county appointee from each of the 16 counties in CKLS that are taxing counties. So that makes it a big full system board. Right now, the system board meets twice a year, and they approve the budget and any resolutions, any petitions to join the system, bylaws changes, and the system plan, and to elect members to the executive board. By law, the full system board can delegate the day-to-day running of the system to the director and the executive board. And then here in this last paragraph, it explains what the executive board is, and they meet monthly around the system. Okay, the reason here that the full system board meets twice a year is highlighted is because I've had several libraries ask me, what do the other systems do? Do they meet twice a year? And the answer is, they all do them differently. Some meet once a year in May, some meet once a year in August. In August, we are required by law to have a budget hearing, and that's one of the reasons why we meet the specific day we do in August, is because those budgets need to be published on a schedule, and we need to be very specific about that time because of legislation. So what I have done is hello? Nope, I have started to do a lot of research on this to find out how everyone else is doing it, and not just are they meeting once or twice a year, but if they're only meeting once a year, how do they work backwards from there to make sure that the system plan gets approved and things like that. If we were to change that, that would need to be a bylaw change. And so that's why that information is in there. We go on to goals or objectives. I keep seeing the chat button getting numbers, and I'm distracted by it. So we go on to the goals and objectives of the system. Within the goals and objectives, you will find it is everything that CKLS does for you. We do provide counseling, training, CE programs and services for librarians and trustees. We maintain funding for continuing education through a number of different ways. We offer competitive, and this is new, non-competitive grants to member libraries, and we advocate for libraries throughout the system in the state and even national and regional. We provide financial support to members in eligible members in taxing counties. This is important here. Some of the changes in the system plan this year from last year are simply wording, but some of the things we're cleaning it up and grouping like items with like items. Previously, who was eligible for what was scattered all over the place, and we really tried to make this more succinct. So eligible public libraries will receive their public library allotment, courier grant or courier service allotment, Storytime grant, this is new, we'll come back to that, competitive and non-competitive grant. The non-competitive grant is new and a new term, and the technology improvement grant, which is continuing from this year, and advocacy grants, which are also new. We also offer competitive grants to eligible public libraries, school, and affiliate libraries. Here is how we provide technology support and consulting. Part of our goal as a system, and this was established a number of years ago, the last time we did the strategic planning process, was to provide digital content and to support digital content, and so we do that now. We do fund shared digital content such as Sunflower eLibrary and Hoopla, and we encourage libraries to also provide funding for that. I'm going to come back to that in just a minute. And we go on to number 5. We encourage and support effective programming for all ages in member libraries. Part of that is that we provide a film license. We train on children's services and children's programming, teens as well. We provide support through the summer library program, and throughout the state we are the sort of the clearinghouse for ordering print materials and handling the other things to do with summer library program up at a high state level. We maintain a collection of programming materials, and we also advise librarians on trends. And again, we offer a Storytime grant, one more time that's new, and a programming grant, and there's some new developments there that I'm excited about. Okay, big changes in number 6 coming up to libraries that you all need to be aware of. CKLS highly supports resource sharing for our member libraries, and one of the big ways we do that is interlibrary loan training. We also, if you can't find it at your library, we will find it for you. We have a very high fill rate, that's called, and we will get that off to you. We do subsidize the cost of technical services if you order things through Ingram under the umbrella of CKLS. Those things are often at a 40% discount. You pay no shipping or handling costs, and you also do not pay for those items to be processed. Those come processed from Ingram, and CKLS absorbs that cost. We also offer a collection of popular reading in print and digital. The print is through Rotating Books, and the digital is through Sunflower eLibrary and now through Hoopla. We provide funding for Pathfinder Central members, and number E is what I'll talk about here in a minute. We do subsidize the Kansas Library Express Courier through the Courier Allotment. So a little bit of back history, if you've read my emails, you'll know this already, so bear with me, is that for almost since the beginning of the Courier, we've not had a price increase. We were able to absorb some mild cost increases through subsidies from each system if they do subsidize, and through the funding from the state library. But there had never been a significant increase in cost. As of May of this year, 5-day courier service total is $2,400. Eligible libraries pay $300 and CKLS pays the rest. And the 3-day service costs $1,050. Eligible libraries pay $150, and any overage, of course, for both, but CKLS pays the rest. Well, as of 2020, courier costs will reflect a stepped increase over the next few years. The Henry Industries manager for Central and Eastern Kansas wanted to have these costs be reflected in 1 year. The Courier Committee for Kansas, of which I am a part, empowered Laura DeBon to negotiate with Henry Industries, and once that she explained how the library budget cycle works, again, 3 years, Henry Industries said, oh, we can step these, and so that's what you're going to see. So if we go to this one, and can you see this? This is a new share. Here, let me see, new share, this one, share. So you should be able to see this now, the courier document, right? Okay, oh, look at me, just these mad skills with sharing and new sharing. Okay. The very good Steve Coomer made this up because this is so much easier to understand than the numbers that we were working with. Here it is, the current courier service that we talked about with the subsidies. The 3-day-a-week courier service, of which we have 45 libraries, CKLS subsidizes that already by $40,500. We have 6 5-day-a-week libraries. The subsidy for that is $12,600. So CKLS subsidizes courier costs to our system libraries by over $53,000 right now. So over the next 3 years, there is a proposed increase, well, it is an increase, it's not proposed, of about 10% spread out over the 3 years. And you can see that here, about 4%, 4%, 2%. That means then that the costs total for the total fee, and I'm right here, for the 3-day-a-week service would go from $1,050 to $1,093 for the 3 days. For the 5 days, from $2,400 to just at $2,500. That also then means that as the system plan is now written, libraries would absorb that cost. That's 1 year. If we come down here to 2021, that number, the original $1,050, would go up to $1,160. And you may think that's not much money, but we have some very small libraries in very small towns in the Central Kansas library system, and we do feel that it is important to serve them and offer them services, and they are part of Pathfinder Central, and they do have some unique items in their collections, and they borrow and share just like the rest of us at a volume that's appropriate for their size. But if you also look under the total CKLS subsidy, remember right now we're paying $53,100. If CKLS were to absorb that cost, it would go up to $59,562. I learned a really interesting term, well, all the consultants did, from the Kansas Library Association lobbyist in January, and we knew that these prices were going to increase, and we were asking our legislators to put more money towards the courier. In library terms, it felt like it was a great deal of money, but the lobbyists said that's legislative dust because to them it wasn't much of anything. We know that this cost increase this one can be significant to some library budgets, But when we look at the CKLS overall budget, this increase to $59,562.35 is not huge compared to some of the other things we spend money for. So one of the other things that's been going on in the Google group discussion has been about overage charges. And if you're a small library, you might wonder what overage charges are. Anytime any library gets to, and this is on the Kansas Library Express Courier Courier Agreement Form, I think, Mary Beth. I can't, oh, well, I don't want to look. It'll be a
I'll find it for
distraction. That's the only place that we found it written down. And it's the overage charges. And so you may not have even heard of overage charges, but if you send more than 4,000 items, you're going to be charged an overage charge for that. And so right now we have 4 libraries who have gone over 4,000 items, and they need to pay an overage charge of $500. Anytime you have 7,000 or more, that overage charge goes up to $1,000. So right now we have 6 libraries who are paying overage charges, and then the system pays $3,000 in overage because we do a whopping business thanks to our libraries. So the discussion then with Courier is this something then that CKLS should absorb the cost? Because right now it says cost subject to change, and it very specifically lays out how much money CKLS will add, and that's what the Google group conversation has been. Any questions about that while I catch my breath?
I did just add that link into the chat for the Kansas Library Express website. It talks about the express fees and volume charges there. So that information there is on the website, or in the chat box for you as well.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Let's see. Okay, we will go on. A library doesn't just get money for keeping the doors open and breathing, because we're working with tax dollars here. We're also working with not just tax dollars within the system, but within the state and at the federal level. So for a library to be eligible, a public library to be eligible, they have to first be eligible for state aid, and then they have to be eligible for system aid before they're eligible for other things. Early on,
switch back to the plan. I think you're still showing us the career.
Okay. Resume share. Is that it? Bring your shared window to the front. Okay, I'll stop it and then I'll start it up again because I'm being, well, that's not it. Yeah, there it is.
There it is.
I've got it.
Okay.
Okay, here we go.
There we go. I can see it now.
Thank you. See, I got to the other one, but I didn't figure out how to get myself back. Okay, here I am. I just talked about this eligibility. This is one of the things that we took and got everything all together. Just a minute. I'm only seeing myself now and I can't stand that. Okay, here we go. I've got myself now. Okay, go over there. Perfect. Okay, so we're going to get into the public library allotments. I just talked about being eligible for a public library allotment. In 2020, public libraries receive them if they're eligible, and that does run on a 3-year cycle. Each system eligible, every eligible library receives the basic library allotment, the public library allotment, and that's in this table. That is based on these categories, which are based on population, but also on the services that the library provided. At one time, you could advocate for your library to move up a category based on services if you were not meeting the population, but that has not existed for a long time. That is something that we may need to look at again. Also, 2020. Every public library is also eligible for the per capita allotment. Again, that's based on population as of the United States Census Bureau Kansas certified population, and here is the date for that. We also recognize the importance of continuing education, and CKLS offers each library $700 a year to assist for paying for library-related continuing education. That lays it out there a little bit more specifically. Here's the information on the courier allotment.
Gail, I'm going to jump in right there. There was a question for clarification that with the courier overages and the courier costs and change, the libraries would still be expected to pay their portion, the $150 for 3 a day and the $300 for 5 a day. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
That is correct. Unless the full system board or we have a proposal to change those prices, I don't think that we could go to a lower cost. I think if there's any change, it's going to be in a higher cost to each library, and I don't think that that would be a popular thing to try to push through.
So you're proposing for the 2020 budget to increase CKLS's stipend for the courier.
Well,
the library's part the same?
That is the proposal, but it's not coming from me. It's coming from the membership.
Okay.
CKLS is member-driven and member-governed, and we've had a number of members make that proposal, and that discussion is ongoing on Google Groups right now. That is a big decision that should come from our members.
Thank you.
And as soon as we're done here, I was just preparing the document ahead of time. Someone had asked, which are the libraries that are getting close to going over an overage, and what would that cost? So thank you for being fiscally minded with that. I will send that document out after this.
Thank you, Gail.
Absolutely, you are welcome. This is the courier stuff as it is now. So one of the things to be aware of is that the Courier Policy Committee meets next week. We've not yet determined if overage costs will also increase. I will find out about that, and I will forward that out to all of you next week after that meeting. Here's the real meat of the system plan, and that is grants. It talks briefly about eligibility. Competitive grants enhance or supplement local efforts and are not a substitute for local funding, and that is why they have a local match. Those grants also operate on a 3-year cycle. In order for a public library to qualify for these, they have to be eligible for the basic allotment. And a school district, it says here, is 1 member, regardless of the number of libraries. And for the local match, they are the same as the major service centers, which is 50%. The larger the library, the larger your local budget, and therefore your opportunities for a local match are higher. Okay, let's see. So we get into that is the basic grant information. Here are the competitive facilities grant for 2020. Right now, as it stands, that major competitive grant works on equipment, materials, and facilities. 2020 will be facilities. I'm not going to show you my middle finger. I just realized what I was starting to do there. Sorry. So when we offer the facilities grant, we offer $40,000 because facilities are very expensive. With the other grants, that money is smaller. Here are the things that grant can be used on. Here is the grant cycle. It's really the grant timeline. One new thing that is in all these grants, and I really like it, is that there is a link to the report and a link to the form. So here, if you were to follow this link, it would explain to you everything that you need to know about this grant. All the details of the grant are there. It also is going to give you your days and times and things like that. Okay, we also have an annual competitive conference grant. This is nothing new, but here is the link to that. And you do need to submit a report afterwards. Often that is a significant cost, and because it is taxpayer dollars, we need to be responsible for that, and so we do ask that you report back on that. We also have The annual competitive continuing education grant. Once a public library has spent their $700 for CE, we don't want you to stop attending continuing education events or stop learning. That's important for us, that you be a well-educated librarian and you have this opportunity here to apply for more money. In the past, that total grant money was $19,000. We never came close to spending that amount, and in fact, we were $15,000 isn't even kind of close to what has been requested in the past. So I lowered that. I proposed to lower that from $19,000 to $15,000. Again, you've got the link for all of your details. The annual competitive programming grant, however, is probably the most popular grant. We before had $3,000 in it. That was last year. 2 years ago, it was $1,500, so we'd already doubled that. That grant is always paid out in full. The pot is empty by the 1st of March. So what Mary Beth and I thought was, let's take this money that isn't used from the competitive CE grant and let's put it into some place we know where it's going to see a lot of good use. And by the way, any money that's not used in any of these grants goes back into the CKLS general fund, and if we don't spend it, it goes into the continuing capital improvement fund. So I'm very excited about this, where we can more than double the competitive programming grant. Any questions about that? Nope? Okay, I'll keep going. This annual competitive materials grant is new. What we're proposing is that we pull materials out of the 3-year major cycle: equipment, materials, and facilities. CKLS weeds in a lot of libraries, and we also see the quality of those libraries collections, and we know that there probably isn't a single library in the system that couldn't use some extra money on a regular basis to improve the quality of their collection. We also know here that the 2016, now this is 2019 now, and these are getting ready to be rewritten, it recommends that the public libraries purchase access to electronic content as part of its collection. We know that there are libraries that this would be very difficult for them to do. We have libraries with very small collection budgets, and that is a difficult thing for them to do. One of the ways that we can help those libraries meet that standard is through this new annual competitive materials grant, but actually it's non-competitive. Mary Beth, will you remember that for me?
Yes, I'll make a note of that one.
Yeah, thank you.
Move it to the non-competitive section.
Yes, thank you. So one of the things that we're proposing is that every library could apply, and ideally I think that we're going to hit every single library every 3rd year with this competitive materials grant money. It would be $20,000, but to help meet that public library standard for digital content, every library that receives this grant must spend 10% of it on digital content, which would be purchased through the Central Kansas Library System Sunflower eLibrary Advantage program. The Advantage program is pretty darn cool. What it is if this money goes into the Advantage program, any CKLS patron who has a hold on something, first off, on this Advantage item, gets it first. So it could be that somebody in Republic had a hold on it here, but somebody in Manhattan had a hold up here. Well, the CKLS patron would move ahead. And that's the advantage, is that these things are going to be heavily used by our CKLS people. That means that our tax dollars in our 16 counties are going to stay well used in our counties. Okay, And Mary, Margie asked, if a school is awarded one of these, would they also need to give up 10% to buy e-content? And yes, they would, because schools use Sunflower eLibrary as well. That actually saves their budget quite a lot. Okay, the non-competitive grants do not have a local match. They're smaller in dollar amount. They're very easy to apply for. And again, you can see the grant form right there. Very easy to apply for, very easy to report out. It doesn't make sense to us at CKLS that you have to jump through a lot of hoops to get a very small amount of money. We want to make this as easy for you as possible. So the annual Storytime grant is new. We know that not every community in central Kansas is the same. In fact, the face of rural communities as a whole is changing, and not every library community still has children living in the area who would benefit from Storytime, or those children are not in the local area during library hours. They may live there, but their parents work out of town, they go to daycare out of town, they grocery shop out of town, they socialize out of town, and they come back to the library. We're talking most specifically about our smallest libraries. The way the system plan is written for 2019 is that if a library does not prepare and provide story times for their community, they will lose 10% of their basic system grant. This Storytime grant is to help with that. With those people who don't have it, they will not be penalized for it. For everyone who is offering Storytime, now you're going to get an opportunity to earn money through Storytime that is going to stay with Storytime. Some of the specifics about this grant is that all monies received from the Storytime grant must be spent on Storytime programming. Again, the Storytime grant is intended to supplement but not replace your library's budget for youth services. So what does this mean? That all of the money needs to be spent on Storytime programming? You've got a lot of options. And one of them is that you decide to hire someone to do Storytime. That could not be the librarian or a board member, but it could be someone in your community with a gift for working with children and storytelling. That it could be that you decide to purchase $300 a year of Storytime supplies, or it could be that you want to buy some books to be used in Storytime and some supplies, or it could be that you've got a closet full of supplies and you want to use that $300 to purchase picture books that you would use in Storytime. Again, easy to fill out, easy to report. Any questions?
I don't see any yet, but I will jump in if anybody types them in the chat.
I'm afraid that it's after lunch and everybody's just really napping. And they've got those, if they're showing a picture, they've got those fake glasses with the big awake eyes on them. Yes, Patty, just like that.
Yeah.
So the annual advocacy grant is something that everybody is eligible for, and there's no matching funds. We had a number of librarians who wanted to join your CKLS staff at the Capitol in Topeka in January to go through the advocacy process with us, but the weather put the hijinks to that, the kibosh to that, and they needed to stay home because it was very bad weather. But this advocacy grant encourages you to stand up and speak for your library, and the details for that are right here if you follow that link. The technology.
Okay, Gail, I do have a question in the chat, and I think it's good to share. With changes still being applied to the 2020 system plan, when would be the best time to print off a copy to give to a library board member?
Oh, well, after this meeting, I'm actually going to go ahead and make just a few tweaks, the ones that Mary Beth made note of and the one that I fixed right in there. And we're going to have this ready no later than the 1st of April. CKLS will print a copy for each trustee and one for the librarian as well. And we will send a big packet. Unfortunately, it's going to be a big packet, and we're going to have to chop down a lot of trees for that. We're going to send all of the information that is pertinent for your library boards to know, so that they can discuss amongst themselves what the best option for your library and your community is on the rotating book redesign. It will it will include a sample ballot. It will include the copy of the courier costs and a copy of the spreadsheet that shows the total numbers for everybody each year. It will include a sample ballot. No, it probably will be the real ballot, maybe. I'm not sure on that yet. Don't hold my feet to the fire unless it's really cold. That will be in your library well in time for you to have 1 full month for your board members to see this and for you to lead that discussion. Does that answer your question?
I believe it does, yes.
Okay. Well, if it didn't, you pipe up again, please. What time is it?
2:11.
Oh my gosh, I'm just zipping through this thing today. Okay. So the Technology Improvement Grant is something that we have going on right now. There are public library standards for technology in libraries, and we know that some libraries have aging technology. This Technology Improvement Grant is intended to help libraries meet those standards. CKLS pays the cost of projects up to $1,000, $24,000 total. So that means that about half the public libraries can apply 1 year, and well, that does mean half can apply 1 year and receive that money, and half the next year. Again, right now this is very simple. We will require a technology improvement plan in 2020, but as
2021.
always, 2021, sorry,
Yep.
but as always, we will do a lot of training to get you there. So you will be eligible for that.
And I was just going to update, we have awarded so far for that grant about 8,000 of the 24,000 for this year. And then there's a question for Storytime flyers.
Yes.
So do we send Storytime flyers, weekly schedule, sometime during the year, or does it all get sent in at the end of the year?
Here we go.
So
Let's go look and see what it says. Hopefully you can see this.
Yes, I can see it.
Good. Let's see what this form says. Oh, here it is right here. It talks about the eligibility. It talks about how many story times you need to do. And here, this last paragraph, you must submit a ready-to-post flyer or signage promoting your story times throughout the year. These little feet always distract me. I just love this little wiggly body here. It needs to include the same things that it does now. And in fact, we have given you 2 really simple ones. And then it talks about what you can use that money for. So you would, when you apply, you need to fill out address, library, type of program, describe the program and why it should be presented in your library. You would need to provide the budget, talking about what you do, and that's as simple as $300 picture books. What is the benefit of this program? And you would need to attach a flyer or signage promoting your library programs, your Storytime programs.
And then is there a report after they complete their project to submit to CKLS?
Yes, there is.
Okay.
But I don't think it's up there yet. This is something new that we just came up with. So
I'll make a note.
Yeah, if you've heard us talk about library policy versus procedure, policy is, it tells you what to do, procedure tells you how to do it. And so this is big picture right now. This is at the level of policy. Mind you, it is not policy. Procedure is something that we're going to figure out what to do. The RB design is a really good example of that. When the board votes, the full system board votes, we know what they're going to vote on. We don't know yet what the timeline is going to look like and what size bags we're going to order and those kinds of things. That's more on the procedural level, and we'll get that all worked out with you then. Okay?
Thank you.
All righty. So here we are to the standards. One of the things that we have done this year is we have not changed any of the standards. They are the same, but in 2019 there is standard 8. We have reduced that by a standard, and now there are just 7 standards, and that's because we pulled Storytime out. One of the reasons that, where is it? There you are. One of the reasons we pulled Storytime out is because we know that even though a library might be doing Storytime, and in the past would have earned $200 and then most recently $300 when we still had the incentive grants, that money wouldn't have gone back to Storytime. And this is like a special programming grant targeted for youth, is the way that I would take it. It's not a presenter grant, it's a programming grant. And like I said, you could pay for someone, but they're doing the programming for you. There's a difference between a programmer and a presenter.
And then there's Patty had a comment in the chat. The dates that I've used for Storytime flyers is to submit by February 15th for the spring and October 15th for the fall. That way you have something posted in your town in time to get people to know what events are coming up and to plan for them.
And you could certainly submit both of those at the same time. When I was doing Storytime, I was at an Air Force base and I had to do Storytime every single week, no matter what. If it was a federal holiday, I had to do my story program before it or after it, but I had to do it every single week. And when I sat down to do Storytime, I planned 9 months out, and then I planned summer library program with Storytimes in it. If you need help planning, you can always ask Patty. I know she's always really glad to do that. Are you waving or raising your hand, Miss Patty? Giving the thumbs up. Yes. Yes. So there, there's a number of ways that you can do that, and that's something that you're going to just find your own rhythm and find out what works best for you. And again, you saw the application on the Storytime grant. Very simple. Very simple. The hardest part will be figuring out what your themes are going to be. And Patty has made it super easy even to make your flyer or your poster, because all you're going to have to do is pop in your library's name, dates, and theme. She's got it all ready to go for you there. One of the things that your current CKLS consulting staff and I feel very strongly about is that when we propose a change, we do a lot of conversation and playing devil's advocate. We really want to work to make things simpler and easier for you. We're very mindful of how much time you have and what that looks like. And I hope that you will find that this system grant does the same. I don't know, what did I talk about last week that I talked for so long about? Well, I don't know.
I think we had some different discussion, and I think that brought up a lot of it.
That would be.
Yeah, so we talked a lot about courier and the overage charges. I think that's where we started the discussion.
The extra discussion.
Yeah.
So what, I'm going to zoom fast, don't get seasick and look. I'm going to go back because we do still have a little bit of time, and I definitely want to honor your time. I won't go over, but I want to talk about this more, is the strategic planning process that we will soon be starting. We're going to get this out to you by the end of this month. It probably will be sooner. We're closer to being ready now than we are. It will be sooner. We will try. I'm sorry, I'm just jumbling today. But as soon as we're done with this, one of the things we're going to do is we're going to start the strategic planning process. I've heard from consultants, I've heard from librarians talking on behalf of other librarians, and I've heard from librarians that everybody's a little bit worried because they don't know the direction that CKLS is going. And honestly, I kind of feel the same way. As I mentioned during the RB discussion, redesign discussions, these things never before would have come to the membership. These would have been decisions by the director or the executive committee. The CKLS Full System Board is a governing board. The system is member-driven and member-governed. And what that looks like to me and to the consultants now is that our members take a very active role in deciding these big decisions, but especially in deciding our future direction. And so that's why your attendance here today and your attendance at the business meeting in May and the other business meeting in August are so critical. For you, I'm using the collective you, to become a true governing board, you need to be educated and you need to really step up and speak for your library. And when I say educated, I'm not talking about college degrees. I mean, just be knowledgeable about the issues. Some of the systems have a committee composed of staff, the director, executive board members, and librarians who prepare the system plan. If you'll remember, last year was the very first time that we had this system plan discussion. That was leading up to where we're going. I think it's just really important that the librarians have a big say-so in what we do. This lets us have this discussion, this give and take before the business meeting. I know when I sit on a board, if I don't get that information ahead of time, I don't feel prepared to make a decision. And these are big decisions.
And Gail, you also talked about, with strategic planning, talked about how we could move to an accreditation process.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yes. One of the things that I've been looking at, I'm always trying to learn things, ways to make it easier for our libraries so that we can give you more services and more money and still make it easy on you. One of the things that I would like to bring up to you, and at this point this is just informational. I don't want anybody to take any action on it or to think this is something we're moving to. Is it the little red hen that the sky is falling, the sky is falling?
Chicken Little.
Chicken Little, right. Okay, so don't be Chicken Little on this, because this is just me throwing an idea out there for you to start thinking about. Other systems in central Kansas, Kansas, Nebraska, Colorado, Utah, a lot of other states use what's either called an accreditation or certification. So the two terms I've seen pretty much used interchangeably. And that is a very different process. You're still meeting the standards, but you report on it every 2 years or every 3 years instead of every single year. You still need to keep the same statistics, but as I just said, you don't report on them every year. You do it less frequently. You still have to meet the standards. If you don't meet the standards, you don't get any money. That's how it works in some places. I'm not saying that that's how it would be here, because this is definitely a really big decision and would go before the full system board. We would probably even establish some working committees to do some research and to report back. This is a multi-year process. So if one of the standards is that you have to have an active website in your library, and for whatever reason you aren't there yet, you can apply for a waiver or whatever it might be called, and that waiver could be granted for that specific standard, but it can only be granted one time. And so what that does is it then gives your library a certain set period of time to step up and meet that standard. And so this is something that I've had a couple of librarians ask about, and so I've started to look into it, and it is a possibility for our future. I think, to me, one of the exciting things is that there are lots and lots of possibilities. One of the hard things, though, is for me to take those all in and rein them in and offer some really viable, good standards to our libraries, and then have our libraries decide, is this what works for us or is it what doesn't work for us? So I brought you up to speed on the the draft of the 2020 proposed plan. I will make those changes here. I've not really heard from libraries about a lot of changes. In fact, I've hardly heard anything. The big discussion has been about the courier with the overage costs. And then I will get this ready. I will prepare an agenda for the business meeting, and I will prepare a ballot for this. We will get together and we will work on the budget, and we will prepare a ballot for that, and we will have this ready to send out. Don't get seasick again, all the way back here. In the 2019 plan, it is the same, and so I'm just going to show you here on standard 1 is, did a voting representative from the library attend both May and August full system board business meetings and vote the interest of the library? Okay, this year, because that is a standard, we're going to offer some options. There will be an opportunity to watch that business meeting via Zoom. This is not going to be pretty. It's going to be down and dirty. We're in a huge room. There's going to be one camera. People are going to be talking in the back, probably me. People are going to be coughing and moving chairs around.
It's a big room, Mike, so it picks up everything. If there's an echo in the room, there'll be an echo in the room. But you should be able to watch and hear and speak as well. You'll be able to speak up.
Right, you'll be able to speak up.
There is a question here. Is there a guideline for a voting representative? I think what you're asking is for picking a voting representative. Your voting representative should be somebody who can attend both meetings, and who you know will be able to not only vote in the interest of your library, but speak up in the interest of your library as well.
Yes, well said, Mary Beth. In some communities, that is the librarian. At Great Bend Public Library, it is one of my board members. It's different library to library. And if your voting representative, for whatever reason, can't make a meeting, you can, at the board meeting prior, appoint a proxy to go in the stead of that individual and vote.
And we have a proxy form for you to fill out.
Yes. So everyone will have the opportunity to attend the business meeting. The voting is going to take place ahead of time by paper ballot, and those are going to be sent out in April. If your voting representative cannot be physically present at the May meeting, then you definitely will be required to send that in early. All ballots will have to be received by a certain time. You're not pinged if you don't vote. You're pinged if you don't have someone watching. So if your voting representative cannot watch the business meeting, you need to make sure someone else is there and watching and reporting back to the library. Okay?
Yes, that did answer the question. Thank you.
Okay, good, good. Anything else? It seems to be my day for solving the world's problems. So does anybody have any other things? Recipes? Child rearing? It seems to be my day.
Well, I don't have anything, but I was going to tell people that it's waffle day this weekend in Lindsborg if you're looking for something to do.
We might make waffles at home. I hope we'll see you next week for the CKLS bus tour. It's going to be rockin' awesome.
Yay!
It'll be fun, and you'll learn a lot. You'll be tired, but that's because it's the good kind of tired at the end of the day. Next week, I have a new directors meeting. There is no set agenda. That is, you've got me for an hour, and you can ask anything,
double check what
talk
time.
about problems, whatever it is. And I'm going to send a little poll out after that, especially if nobody shows up. It may be better that these are face-to-face meetings, and I go to a different part of the system and take you out to lunch, and we have a good long visit that way. It will be what works best for you.
And what time is that in the day?
It's probably at 1:30.
Probably at 1:30? Okay.
Yeah, probably at 1:30. Okay, I really want to thank you all for being here. It means a great deal to me. We know that you are busy, and we appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to spend a little bit of time with us. And we know how much you care about your libraries, and we care as well. And I hope I see you Monday, and if I don't, maybe I'll see you in May or even sooner. So I hope you have a good day. Mary Beth will post to the archive to this as soon as it is ready.
Yep.
Thank you
very
for being
much.
with us.
Have a
Bye.
good day.